Facebook group page, Taranaki Foodies with Area 41. So jump in if you like to peek behind the scenes. We are Olina Williams and Warwick Foy, local foodies and the most FM broadcasters. Hello, Warwick.
Talofa.
Talofa. Our guests are Angela Ferguson, Head of Hospitality Department of WIT, and Daniel Fuemana, Director of Trade, Training, Primary Creative Industries and Hospitality at WIT, and Leilani Fuemana, Iha Beach Rescuer, Water Safety Ambassador, and a foodie. Hello, guys.
Hello.
We need to listen to some music that our guests have chosen. It's Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain by UB40. So, music is playing.
Hotel California.
Okay, so I did it on different devices. So first of all, Blue Eyes Crying, then it will be Hotel California, and then it will be In the Air Tonight. So, Leilani, you need to be closer to the microphone as you turn to speak, probably like 25 centimeters.
So now flip to you, Daniel. I was gone by the time you came to work, but are you Chris's boss, Chris Gibson?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're aficionado.
Did you come with, not with, but did you work with your bosses? John, did you work with him at Wairiki?
No, I didn't. I was from music.
Oh, you're from music. Oh, okay.
So when the music is playing, people on ear, people on radio can't hear us, they can hear music, but it's still recorded, so just be aware of whatever you say in the studio, it's recorded. Okay. Well, we didn't really have a really bad situations when people did something, but it's still before 9 p.m. We are not allowed to do swearing or explicit music. It's a community radio station.
You might know this. Who's girlfriend is Grover from Turkey.
Really? Oh.
Yours.
And that's really. No,
all right. Well, you know so many things. I'm surprised that you still survive because people remove you as a witness.
She's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
She just told us.
Oh, that's fun.
Her son is Holly's best friend.
Oh, okay. So we started a speechcraft session at the Boys High. It's when kids learn how to speak publicly, deliver their message, be clear, and do the whole fraction. So it's like a oratory course. And I told them that I have a radio show. And the boy from Boys High is working for me. And they were all so jealous of you, Ollie. And they all wanted to be on your place. It's a really good course. It's powered by International Toastmasters Club, and because it's one of the oldest educational systems in the world, there are so much possibilities for children. And after the end of the course, in 8 weeks, we will bring it to the long play show.
Yeah.
We've just started a Trades Academy radio broadcasting.
Let's talk about it as well.
Brian Vickery is teaching that for us.
Oh, awesome. Brian Vickery found a job at WIT.
Yeah.
Oh,
part-time one. Yeah, part-time. Yeah.
There you go, team.
Great start.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41. It's Alina Williams, Warwick Foy, and our guests today in the studio, Angela Ferguson, Head of Hospitality Department at WIT, Daniel Fuemana, Director of Trade, Training, Primary Creative Industries and Hospitality at WIT, and Leilani Fuemana, Piha Beach Rescuer, Aquatic Educator, and a foodie. So my first question is to Daniel, because Daniel is such a famous figure in education. So Warwick immediately knew who he was once entering the room. So you appointed to the position in WIT as the Director of Trade, Training, Primary and Creative Industries just before the lockdowns last year. So how did that work?
Well, my start date was actually on the 20th of April. We didn't actually envisage COVID-19 to actually, come online in March. And so I was supposed to actually be down here at that time, but unfortunately with COVID, I had to, I was locked in Auckland until the level 3, and I had special dispensation to actually cross 2 borders to arrive here to Taranaki in mid-May.
Isn't it a bad luck? Is it a good luck? And it's just really so awkward situation when you plan something and you can't do it, and just like the whole universe is planning for you. So, what jobs on the market does the department cover that you?
Yeah, so it's a large department. We've got trades that covers everything from carpentry to automotive to mechanical engineering to electrician, right across to creative industries. We've got arts, and then we've got primary, which is forestry, pest control, ag, horticulture, and then also hospitality. And Angela can talk about that later on, about what she covers in her. So it's probably the largest school at WIT.
My husband Kerry, who's present in the studio today, so hello Kerry, is working in the oil industry. So I heard that the WIT courses in oil were so successful that people were actually dropping their jobs to go to the WIT course to study there. Is that true?
Well, in our engineering area, which is probably outside my jurisdiction, but we do have a lot of students enrolled. And also with mechanical engineering, we've got a lot of students involved in our level 3. So that's very positive.
So is hospitality considered a creative industry?
It is, absolutely. Definitely. Everything you put on a plate is art and creative. Everything hospitality does is creative. You think about the latte art that's done on coffees, and all of that, definitely creative.
The presentation.
Definitely. Yeah.
And sometimes creative doesn't show in arty things. Sometimes it shows in the creative processes, how you can optimize certain processes, how you can communicate with people in creative ways so no one gets offended but gets the job done in a correct way. So it's kind of a management thing, isn't it?
Yes.
So Daniel, prior to being in education, you worked in building industry, and you were one of few people who changed the society's perception about the tradies, I've heard. So before, tradies were those who were dropouts of schools, people who didn't have good marks, didn't have a goal in life, and like being a tradie was like, okay, I have no other options, I'll go for the tradies. And now it's different. Like, I very often measure the success about, will you date a person who is? So, will you date a person who is a builder? I think that a lot of people would say yes.
I would.
Well, at least someone who knows how to hold a hammer, things like that. So, I think that perception as trade is more like a person who has their own business, has all sorts of endorsements and skills to start on their own. So, am I correct?
Yes, yeah. Here you are, yeah.
How long did the process of changing the perception of society actually take?
It's still in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very difficult because there is a perception out there, or a notion that the trade is actually for those who haven't achieved well at school. Okay, it's all around learning. It's around learning styles, how people actually connect, how they learn, if they learn with their hands, their eyes, or their cognitive skills. Yeah, so in the trades, it's just. Yeah, so we've got the stigma that trade is for the unachievers, but I can tell you that if you sort of drove down to Whangamata or Coromandel, and if you see those big boats out there, they're all tradies, they're plumbers, they're electricians, they're builders, okay, at the back of their utes, and those beautiful batches there.
Not geography teachers.
So it is a very good, it is a trade, but it's taken a while to actually try to shift that perception, especially for parents, because they want their children to become architects, engineers and lawyers. Yeah, but there is a career in the trades. It's not about just banging nails in. It's about learning legislation, interpretation of drawings. It's that creativity, and to be able to look at the picture and actually build something.
I've got a whole lot to say, but I'm not going to. But I totally agree with you, and I'm just really pleased that in the last 10 years there has been a big shift in schools around the perception of trades. And I always say when I have a conversation with a student or a parent, the perception that if you're dumb, you do, and there's no such thing as dumb anyway, but you're a trader, if you're smart, you go to uni. I always say to the family, So when something goes wrong at your house, do you want some stupid person coming around, or do you want a smart, skilled trainee coming around? Or smart, skilled trainee. So it's great that that perception has changed, and that I am seeing more and more young people accepting and looking forward to entering those trades because the esteem of them has been lifted.
And I can vouch for it. My husband, when he was young, became an apprentice, and they said that the reservoir that offered him was lasting for probably 2 to 5 years, and now he is one of the longest working person at Todd Energy. So lots of respect on this. He didn't want to go to the big management position. He works like he is, and he teaches a lot of people. So kudos for carrying.
So just to follow up on what Alina said, how were you involved in changing the perception of trades, Daniel?
Well, I was in the building trades, and then I shifted to education. And so when I was working at my former, employer, Unitech, and we did a lot of work around with our secondary schools and community around changing the perception, and especially in the Pacific community as well, because again, most of the parents have migrated to New Zealand, want their kids to be successful, but they sort of don't look at the trades area. And so part of the conversation is around, hey, there is a life in the trades, and it's a very good a career to pursue, and also the remuneration, the lifestyle and well-being is very positive around that. And so it's been able to actually connect with the community and just give them a real picture of what your students can actually achieve.
In the interview in 2016, you said that there is a demand now for tradies in the building industry, and by 2022 it's going to grow immensely. Wow, you were right. Everyone wants a builder now, because after COVID, people just realize the value of their house, the value of owning something solid, and the traders are in such a demand. So it's like foreseeing the future. Well done on you.
So the industry's been growing since in the last decade, and especially in the urban areas. But just in recent, in the regionals, especially like Taranaki, we've had growth here. At least if you're looking at the increase of housing, it's gone up 36%. And if you look at the population, a lot of people are migrating down to Paradise, as I was told, or Paradise, I was told, to live here. And so I know many Aucklanders who actually have shifted down here and are actually here.
Did you have any links to Taranaki before you got the job here?
The only links I really had is that I do coach lifesaving for North Pihan, and also my children actually play netball. So it's really around netball and going to Aokura to lifesaving. So that's my only connection really till I actually moved out here.
And you enjoy being here, obviously.
Oh, I love it being out here. It's been great.
So you were also pioneering trade studies by carpentry scholarship for Pacific students. Was it a successful project?
Yeah, it was a successful project. What you saw back in, I'm sort of going back to in the late 90s, and also in the 2000, there was a gap between Pacifica and Māori within the trades area, and we wanted to actually develop a program that actually give the community an opportunity to actually enroll, pick up a trade, and being able to actually see that come to fruition now. And so I could say, if I can reflect the last 20 years, many of those students have actually, they've got their own companies. Some of them have become, professors. Some of them have become managers and CEOs in different organizations. So it's been a very good, successful initiative that we introduced. And that's sort of, it's still continuing now, but in a different form.
So Tertiary Education Commission expanded your model to the Maori students. So I believe that their success could be repeated and expanded.
Yeah, so the government, prior to that, Unitech funded the scholarship, and so from the last decade, the government stepped in. And so they took the initiative, and the initiative is not new, it's been around for a while through Māori trade training back in the 70s and 80s, and we actually took the model and actually refined it and sort of brought it to the 21st century and been able to actually deliver that.
Wow, it's an amazing result. How do you see the difference between the education for adults and education for children?
Well, everybody learns, and so there is no difference really around learning. So, if you're learning for a child, you're learning to actually, learning to use your cognitive skills. If you're learning as an adult, it's still the same. You just build onto that. And so the word they use is pedagogy, and so it's all around the science or the art of learning. And so how children learn, right, that's exactly how adults learn as well.
So when we talk about the stigma of education for traders, we have similar thing for hospitality students as well, because there is a mentions and knowledge in the society that only outcasts go into hospitality because it's very hours that are not easy to work on. It's lots of pressure, lots of stress for people and things like that. Do you think that you can change people's perception about jobs in hospitality?
I was talking to my daughter earlier around hospitality. It's a passion, and so if you've got that passion, to actually exceed, that sort of overweighs that. And so if it's a sort of a 8 to 3 job, I think you'll probably struggle with the whole with the whole career of, if you want to move into hospitality. It is a lifestyle and it's a passion. And Angela might be able to elaborate on that more.
It is absolutely a passion.
Will you date a chef?
Yeah, I love a man in uniform.
Well, chefs became a celebrity in 21st century, and I think they deserved it. It was long deserved things, and we know a lot of chefs in Taranaki and we would like to celebrate their creativity, their devotion, because sometimes you have a bad day, but you still go and produce high quality food that makes other people happy. Yeah, so
it's just like any job, isn't it? You have to have pride in it. It's just like a bus driver. You can ignore people and throw their change up and be rude, or you can be welcoming and professional and polite. It's your choice how you do your job.
And the hospitality industry is all about people wanting to make people happy, because nobody wants to slave in a kitchen and prepare a meal for somebody for them not to like it. So we want to make people happy and to have an enjoyable experience. It's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. You can drink at home and have a sandwich, but it's not exactly the same as when you go out and there's a good atmosphere, people looking nice and clean at least, having a drink and having some story about it, something to remember, something memorable. So talking about food, Daniel, what's your favorite food? Is it Samoan, Niue, or New Zealand?
Well, I've travelled extensively, and I might say my favourite food is Chinese food, and then Pacifica food. And yeah, so
do you cook at home?
Sorry, I just have to talk about something I learned about last week. Was turkey tails.
Oh,
so
no!
Do you know? Did you hear about it?
Well, I read it on your timeline.
Turkey tails became a thing when mass-produced turkey farming started, and they weren't used very often. So they simply found a new market, and they put them into the Pacific region because the Pacific diet was low on animal protein. Fish, yes, but other animals, no. So the Pacific Island people apparently got a liking for these things, and they cook them up with soy sauce and then boil them for a while and then barbecue. And I tried them. I must say they were nice, but extremely fatty.
Really?
So this is the time I banned them in 2008.
That's correct.
So what do you think of turkey tails?
Well, in Samoa they call it opipi, and so personally for me, very fattening, but it is delicious. But it is actually contributing to obesity in the Pacific. Similarly to lamb flaps, they're delicious, but again, high cholesterol, high fat content.
A lot of delicious stuff is high in fat and not necessarily good for us.
And no one is going to eat like 1/4 of a turkey tail, right? That's, moderation is not applicable. How about we listen to the second piece of music, Hotel California by Eagles. Wow, guys, you're doing so well. You've been already speaking for 22 minutes. And this went so fast.
So are you Niue or Samoan?
Half Niue, quarter Irish, and quarter Samoan. So my grandfather is fully blooded Irish, and my grandfather on the other side is fully Niue.
And born in New Zealand?
I was born in American Samoa. My dad went across here to work.
I know several very good and successful Samoans in Taranaki. One lady have written a letter and she's driving charities for Samoan females in on the islands. And another one is
Who's it?
her name is Selene Richardson, Skelton Richardson. And another one, she is in the Multi-Ethnic Council. She's our secretary at Multi-Ethnic Council.
I think the Pacific community down here, I think there's only about 2,000, between 1,800 and 2,000.
Oh, this is much more than Russian.
Yeah,
Oh, city-wise.
yeah, I know. Yeah. It's more compared to, New Zealand's of the capital city of Pacifica, which is predominantly Auckland. And so, so it's small.
I've been to the dancing, of small dancing in the church, and it's really nice. It's so graceful, it's pleasant, and not too hard.
Yeah, the way dancers are very savage.
Like
savage,
a lot of jumping. It's more African.
Isn't it more Nuans in Auckland than are in Nuan?
Oh, definitely, yeah, substantially.
It's about 1,000
You have about 48,000
in Auckland.
in Auckland.
And about 1,200 in Nuan.
Probably about 900. Yeah, about 900. Yeah. Total population is probably between 1,400, but the remainder is actually foreigners, other Pacific nations.
Do you feel Irish sometimes?
Irish? I think only when I attend my Irish family's reunion in St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
And also when they play when they rugby, I support them. I put my jersey on.
Right, it's just the genetical memory kicks in. Awesome. Do you feel like from the island? Do you feel New Zealand? How do you self-identify yourself?
Me, it's always been like, being mixed of cultures, it's always been like a bit hard to find where I fit in, because like I have like my white friends, and to my white friends I'm like this Pacific Islander, and then I have like my full Pacific Island friends, my partner who's like fully Samoan, and then they're like, oh, the white girl, oh, the cocoa bean, and it's like, so you're always having to like try to find your way in, like where you fit. But
Where's your mum from?
she's Scottish, New Zealand European, so both her parents came out from Scotland.
Don't you love all this mixture of different nationalities? It's very 21st century global children.
Yeah.
Same as myself.
So yeah, it's nice being exposed to two different cultures as well.
Nathan, can you please move the microphone closer to Leilani, this big one, because when she starts speaking, she probably need that.
Yeah. So Piha Rescue, were you ever on that, the TV show? It might be before your time.
Yeah, rescue. I was a couple times, but never like spoke. I was just there in the background.
Did you know someone called Anna, who was kind of the star of the show?
No, so they did like Piha Rescue at South Piha Beach, and we're United North Piha. So like we would sometimes give footage to South Piha or cash for our clubs. But yeah, the only times I was over there was because we were low and lifeguard.
So it's actually two different beaches,
yeah, two different surf clubs.
One's on the south side of the rock, Rock.
Yes.
What's the Maori name of the one? And then there's a big stretch of beach, and then the north clubs up at that other end.
So the North looks up that long stretch, right up to Lion Rock. Right?
Yeah.
We were there in summer. It was unfortunately really howling southwesterly winds and massive swells, so we couldn't really swim the once. We couldn't climb up the rocks, it's closed.
She always like
we
cut
did.
it down because
Yeah, we did.
We climbed it halfway.
Oh yeah, you can't climb right.
voice of honesty.
Well, you can, but
There was a fence that I could climb over it.
yeah.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41. It is us, Alina Williams, Warwick Foy, and our guest, Angela Ferguson, Deputy Director of the School of Angela Ferguson, Deputy Director of the School of Trades and Lead of Hospitality Department at WIT, Daniel Foymana, Director of Trade, Training, Hospitality, Primary and Creative Industries at WIT, and Leilani Foymana, Piha Beach Rescuer, Aquatic Educator, and a foodie. So my next set of questions is to Leilani. First of all, why did you choose this piece of music? This is such an old piece of music. Yeah.
That is a good question. My dad chose that. He did tell me to send through a piece of music, but
another piece of honesty in the studio.
Yeah.
All right. So you're into sports and rescuing people. For many millennials and the Generation Zers, you are the role model because you are supportive, you're active, you're beautiful, and you have a a mission which is the new generation
Thank
is
you.
looking for. So why didn't you choose a traditional high level career like a lawyer or an accountant or a politician?
Yeah, our family already has many of those. So, and I have always been creative. Like, I've always loved working with people. I enjoy doing work that's really meaningful, and I like well-being on like grassroots level. So yeah, I have been a surf lifeguard my whole life, and it was fun being out in the water, helping people. The knowledge that I bring, I can share with others. So going into a not-for-profit organisation, which allowed me to be, half in the office, half outdoors, helping people. I just thought, well, that's a mix. And
How many siblings do you have? You said that you have many of all other.
Yeah, so I have 3 siblings. I have a twin sister who is a civil engineer, an older sister who's a lawyer, and an older brother who is a senior site project engineer.
Oh, awesome. So you're working with the prevention of drowning, right?
Yeah.
So what is the main thing for people to know about the prevention of drowning?
The main thing is just being aware before you go into any different water environment, like knowing the risks, understanding the environment, the conditions. A lot of people have their perception of water is, oh cool, I'm just going to go for a swim. Low tide, the conditions don't look too rough until they're finally in the water, and then they realise, oh, actually, I've actually come into the water at a really bad time. Maybe I should have thought this through before getting in, and then they get into trouble. So, yeah.
So all these accidents do not discriminate between different demographics, old and young and different nationalities. Although the statistic says that new immigrants more often get involved into the accidents on the water. Right. Is that right? So can you explain why?
Yeah, so definitely our new migrants, immigrants, New Zealand Asian people are overrepresented in our preventable drowning, so drownings that could have been stopped. And we've just found that they have a lack, again, of awareness and knowledge before going out to different water environments. For example, rock fishing. When we teach people about rock fishing safely, we talk about checking the tides, the weather, having the correct gear, taking a life jacket with you. But we see so many people just go, get their fishing rods, literally just go out to the rocks and they'll just start fishing to get home one. So yeah, that's one of the reasons, that lack of awareness, and then also the lack of education if it's been pushed in their countries beforehand coming into New Zealand. So yeah.
So Pika Beach, where you're rescuing people, has a really bad reputation. There are also movies and everyone knows that it's kind of a dangerous area. Why people still go there?
So our West Coast beaches are gorgeous. They're beautiful. We've got nice black sand, big waves. It's like a iconic place in New Zealand, and I'm sure most people have heard of Piha Rescue. So yeah, I'm a surf lifeguard at United North Piha, which is just north of Lion Rock, and it can be really safe if you swim in between the flags. And that's, I think, the great thing about having Surf Life Saving Northern Region in New Zealand. They have volunteers who go out in the weekends, and then they've got paid lifeguards on the weekdays from Labour weekend to Easter, and they make it safe for members of the community to come and enjoy it. So it's just about, again, being aware, like if you're going to go to a West Coast beach, go when they've got flags on patrol. And if you want to know that, you can go to swimsafe.org.nz as well.
If you're to close the beach because it's really unsafe, what power do you have over people who are still into the water?
Well, we don't have much power. We can talk to members of the public. We have these things called preventative actions. So we will go and talk to people. We'll say, hey, look, we've closed the flags, down the beach because the conditions are too rough. There's too many rip currents. If you go in, it's at your own risk. However, if they go in and get into trouble, lifeguards are obviously going to respond, whether they're swimming in between the flags or not.
I see people at our beaches here, Easting and Fitzroy, and the flags are out, the volleys are doing their job, and some clown goes in where there's a clear rip in between flags and just ignores, and it's just like, you'll be the first to complain if you go under and they
Yeah.
don't want to come and get you.
Yeah, well, most of the times people get into trouble because when they go to a West Coast beach, they see a calm patch and they're like, oh, cool, calm patch, nice and safe, not going to get knocked over by the waves, when that's like the main identifying feature of a rip current, which you just said. So
I can grow up in New Zealand, not know that. I do not know. As a child and a young adult, I remember the ads on TV with the big red arrows. This was a rip. You could see
yeah.
the flat bit out.
Well, we have, like, I work with a lot of, like, high school kids and adults, and when I talk about rip currents, most of them are familiar with the term rip current, but they don't actually understand what it is and why it is dangerous.
And what to do if they get into it.
Yeah, so that's why, well, we need a lot of education in that area, just exposing them to the why.
Watching you, well, anyone, and on the beach, watching you the rescuers, we always see you in the action. You're doing either training or you're saving people. Do you have a lunch break?
A lunch break. It depends. I mean, to be honest, I haven't actively patrolled in a while, but United North Piha, we usually, like, the club is built on volunteers. So if you have, if you're in the middle of summer on a weekend, and if you've got like 12 guards, you can have your lunch break fine, because, you know, you've got your clubhouse, your tower, the beach patrol operating with different lifeguards. But, you know, sometimes you can go to a day of patrol and there's 4 guards who have turned up, who are voluntarily, you know, putting their time out to safeguard our beaches. So that's when it can be quite difficult to actually have a lunch break.
Do all, or let me get this right, is it the culture of lifesaving that if you are a lifeguard that you will enter into the competitive aspects of it as well?
No. So I guess, well, with surf lifesaving, there's the rescues, there's the first aid, and then rescues, patrolling, and then sports. So sports can be a completely different mode. You can isolate that from surf lifesaving. So we have a lot of people in, well, clubs across the whole of New Zealand who like that community, like the companionship. You know, when you go out, you're served with a team, and then other people like the competitiveness of it. So then they usually go do their patrol hours, and then they go and do all of, like, you know, the athlete stuff.
So you could say, I want to do flags, but I don't want to. No, you couldn't say, I want to do flags, but I don't want to patrol. You can't just be in for the sport.
Yeah, no, yeah.
You could do that.
But usually you start when you're quite young, and then once you become a surf lifeguard, then you can say, oh, cool, actually, I want to focus more on doing the sport competitively. But yeah, there is an expectation that if you're a surf lifeguard competing in surf sports, you still have to do your voluntary hours.
And what is the rivalry of United North Piha against our clubs here, Old Boys, East End at Strandon and Fitzroy?
The rivalry.
Yeah, what is it like?
I don't know. I mean, personally, we're both on the West Coast, so, you know, there is unity, there is strength. So I wouldn't know too much about that.
I think, being coaching North Piha and also whatever, and also I've actually joined the club here, Fitzroy, is closer to where I'm staying, around there. And there's always good, rivalry against different clubs. But, with North Piha, they're really strong around IIB canoes. And so different clubs will actually have strength in different areas. Yeah, I'm sort of identifying that with Eastern and Fitzroy. They're so close together, but very competitive.
Oh, yeah, and a long history of being close together, but very separate clubs.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect time to listen to our third piece of music, In the Air Tonight, by Alex Midi et Delaney. Wow, we're doing so good. It's so interesting. The content is interesting. Angela, if you want to present your food, you can put it on the table. Because after this, we're going to try it on. And then the next kind of a part of the program will be devoted to you.
It seems to me we're in a pretty good space at the moment. Am I right?
Yeah.
Strong,
Yeah.
big good numbers.
In some areas,
Government did give us free courses.
Yeah, there's 3 courses there. Yeah. Yes, I think, that's when Angela speaks. Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah.
She always does.
what is some
Touch of class.
Oh, beautiful sources.
Yeah.
AF preserves. My hobby.
Oh, your hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember I tried some.
So is it the structure at the moment? You've got, is it 4 departments? Is that right?
4 schools.
4 schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And what are they?
So you've got the school that Angela and I are. So there's trade training, primary and creative industries. Then you've got the engineering, the energy. Then the third one is the health, nurses, and the fourth one is the multi-entrepreneur and business. So it is in the positive space. Yeah. And so some areas are very popular because of the targeted funding, and so that's really good for.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and a shape of a fish.
Yes.
Well, I've got more girls in trade back and 3+2 this year by far than I've ever.
That's my little treat thing to share with everybody. You can go down the sort of Japanese wasabi side, or you can go down the sort of preserved lemon caper side.
Or you can go to both sides.
Do you want to
So you can have both on the same thing. You can, yeah.
Kira, do you want to try some? All right. So Nathan and Kira are going to try today.
Okay. I'll give you a little plate for
Prepare to
everybody.
do a recipe.
You can review it in this napkin here. So it's a little bit of it's crushed, those vegan pea and wasabi snack things you can get.
Oh,
And you crush them and you can just sprinkle them on. It's just a nice little cheap,
it's dry, right?
little bit of texture. Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah.
She was just
I've done it a
explaining these are the
couple of
wasabi peas.
times. On
She's
hot
saying,
days, it's beautiful.
so
Just
the
crush
first
them
one
up
is wasabi.
and
but
sprinkle them on. It's a bit
Right.
We just
different
having a
flavours.
snack one day where you're like,
And I thought these were really nice, crushed up on some salmon.
Well, that's
That's
chef.
exactly what I thought, and so I would share that with
Your husband, I've banged into him.
my one.
I've got a gateway student at Max Kingston.
Oh, yes, he did. He saw you.
Yeah,
He's loving
we
his
were
job.
both, oh, good.
He's
We
loving
were
it.
both so, thank you, out of context. Who the hell's that? We just couldn't work it out.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but so what does he do there?
He's the new sales person for Kia, so he
Oh,
sells
Kia.
new Kia. Yeah.
Very
Kira, you
good.
need to put sauce on.
Very good salesperson.
He's a very good salesperson. Daniel has
So, sorry,
taken a nap.
did he leave his old job? He had
Got
nothing.
made redundant. Yeah,
COVID.
just prior to COVID. Sort of,
Kira, put some of this.
sort of smalling, of territories and stuff, and because Taranaki was right in the centre of a space, it was easy to consolidate.
No, you
So,
So you got another job.
no. He had a lot of time cooking for me, so I had a very clean house and didn't wash the toilet for months. It was fantastic.
Oh, that's perfect. Are we on air?
Yeah.
Welcome back to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41. And this is Alina Williams and our amazing guest, Angela Ferguson, Head of Hospitality Department at WIT, Daniel Furmana, Director of Training Hospitality Primary and Creative Industries at WIT, and Leilani Furmana, Beach Beach Rescuer, aquatic educator and a foodie. So while you were listening to this beautiful song that has been chosen by Angela, we were trying some food, and this food was brought by none the less than Head of Hospitality Department always. Angela, tell us, what was it?
So a couple of days ago, I got a lovely order of some akara salmon up, which is lovely salmon. You can order it online. My little plug for akara salmon. They're one of our sponsors for our upcoming competitions, actually. And the salmon, I love it. It's not really oily and heavy, and so I grabbed some of it when it came.
I've got to have some more just to make sure you're right.
And I made up a little dressing to go with it, with some of my own home preserved lemons and some caper and a little bit of mayonnaise and a little bit of yogurt, a little bit of natural yogurt. I like to add a little bit of natural yogurt to a mayonnaise to just lighten it up a bit so it's not so heavy and oily.
Right, acidity.
And then at the other end of it, to serve with it, I'm a big fan of these pea and wasabi snacks
So
that
they
you
sell
can
it in
get.
White.
Yeah, I like chickpeas, but yeah. And I was eating them one day and I went, oh, this would go really, really yummy with some salmon. And so one night when we were having salmon, I crushed them up and sprinkled them on top and it was delicious. So I did that today just for you to try and see what you thought of it with the salmon green legs.
Well, our tasters today kind of consuming the salmon with a great vigor. I believe that they enjoy it, otherwise there is no explanation for that. But you also brought 4 jars, and I believe that this is something that is your hobby. What is this?
It is my hobby. We live in a townhouse with no lawns, but we have a little raised garden out the back that is very productive. So we get lots and lots of cucumbers and zucchini and tomatoes and vegetables that then I turn into preserves, and I don't sell them. I fill up a pantry and then I love giving them away as gifts. So that's my hobby.
I'm sure people love it. I love you for that, because food is always so welcomed by everyone in many cultures, like Korean culture. This can stop quarrels, wars within the family, and do so many other things. So
I think I might go start working back at again. I've missed all the
well, you need to bribe those 2 people. You know, to bring something to bribe them. Where is your beer work?
Oh yes, we have done that.
We could have done a nice beer match with that salmon. That would have been good. A nice pilsner.
So, Angela, what are those? We have something burgundy.
So I was very fortunate. I don't have a plum tree, but my cousin does in the Wairarapa. And so when I was down there in February, she gave me a couple of big bags of plums. And so I stoned them all when I got back and I froze them and thought, right, when I'm in the mood, I'll make some plum sauce. And so I made some plum sauce, and I love making things look nice. So I order my jars and bottles online, and I order my little labels online. And
labels look really professional.
And then just write on them. Yeah.
Did you do it yourself? Did you do the label yourself?
Yeah. It's just an online one that you do, and you order them, and you can get different sizes and shapes, and just pick my own sort of little logo that you could choose from.
So one jar has kind of like an orangey, like a tomato.
That's a tomato relish, that's correct. And the yellow one is, I went away for a few days and came back, and my zucchinis had miraculously turned into marrows, which they do tend to overnight. I made a little marrow chutney there as well.
Awesome.
We'll fight over and try.
That's really good, because nothing is wrong with a good marrow. I know several recipes and they can be so tasty and different preserves. So you've been a guest in our studio many times, and we're always looking forward for some of your news, because you always have something to share. So what's happening in your department now?
Hospitality. Hospitality's quietened off a little bit. COVID has given a lot of people the perception that it's not necessarily a viable career option to go into. Now at the moment we have around 180 students in our department across all of our programs, which is still a really good number. And we have so much on offer for those students that we have, but industry are crying out for staff. We get emails, phone calls at least twice a week from local industry, and I talking to colleagues in other regions, they have exactly the same, where they're just really struggling to find staff.
What's the key skill shortage at this time?
It's both. It's chefs, it's baristas, that front of house side, very low. We don't have the holiday people coming in, the migrants, the backpackers coming in who are coming over and working here on holiday trips, working holidays, that would normally fill those gaps.
Now, your international students at WIT, have you got any or some?
We have international students in the hospitality area who are already living in New Zealand. So we have in our groups maybe about 5 in each of our cohorts that come in. We have our last group of sort of larger size group of internationals who are due to finish in July. And we had a big group of 28 finish in November last year. They all have employment in the hospitality sector in New Zealand.
And did a lot of them stay when you went into lockdown? A lot of those internationals stayed?
Oh yes, they absolutely. Yeah, they did stay. Yeah.
So Your latest event, the cooking class with Taranaki young professionals, I saw photographs, and there were people who were enlightened by the look at the food, and you were right in the middle doing something. How did it go for you?
It was fantastic. So we were supposed to do this last year, and lockdown happened, so it didn't happen. So we ended up putting it off until this year. So we sponsor the Taranaki Young Professionals, and it was put on their calendar for one of the events was to do a cooking class of some sort. And so I thought, right, to get as many people as we could, what can we do? And so decided to teach them how to make a dish that I make and that actually my husband Tony makes on a regular basis, which is a ricotta gnocchi, which is really simple. Once you know how to make that base recipe, you can turn it into anything, add any sauce, add different flavours. It's a really wonderful, versatile dish to impress people. So that's what we did, and they loved it. We had 32 people there. We could have sold it out again, and I'm actually looking at doing another one. And it's something that we are going to be doing in terms 3 and 4 at WIT, is bringing back the community cooking classes. So we're in the process of setting out a schedule of when. There might be some evening ones, there might be some Saturday workshops where the general public can come along and do a cooking class and learn how to do some different things. So one of those, I will repeat the ricotta one because it's such a great thing for people to learn. Yeah,
nice to empower people to cook something easy and versatile, isn't it? And I remember I attended one of your cooking classes. It was dumplings, although I know how to make dumplings in so many ways, but it was such a nice way to catch up with so many people, and we get all kind of covered with the flour, and it made a really good Instagrammable event for me. So yeah. I'm always looking for content. So I've heard that in 2 weeks you have a huge event as well. So it's a competition.
We do. We have the regional Taranaki hospitality competition. So it's run in conjunction with the New Zealand Chefs Association. It's hosted at WIT on Sunday the 30th of May. It's for trainees in industry, WIT, PIMS, and secondary school students.
Wow.
So at this event we have front of house events where they do table settings. We have where students do mocktails, cocktails, barista competitions, cooking competitions. So there's an event that has, they do a salmon dish. We have the National Secondary Schools Cooking Competition, so the winner of that for the region will go and represent Taranaki at the national finals. And
that's huge.
Yeah. So
does that involve Trades Academy 3+2 students?
It does. So if they're not entered through their school, we support them through WIT. If they're attending through our Trades Academy, we absolutely do. So the Trades Academy students are currently practicing their mocktails to enter in that competition, which is exciting. Yeah. We get industry chefs to come and judge, and we also have members of the Chefs Association from around the country who come and judge those events.
So if people don't know what Trades Academy is Trades Academy, it's a way of being at school and also tertiary education at level 2 or 6th form or year 12, and 3+2 is similar, except it's 2 days per week at level 3 year 13. And both excellent programs as a way for people to start moving into tertiary education but still being at school.
Wow, so which supports that, right?
Absolutely. Oh, definitely. It's through all of our trade school area, we have programs running in all of those.
And it's now, when I talk to a parent, it's fairly much almost a mainstream option to be able to do that now. 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh no, I don't want them dropping out. But now it's okay. That's good.
Very well supported. Yeah,
definitely. So I've just noticed that Warwick stopped chewing. It means that he's ready for a review. So what are you going to say about the dish?
Well, it's fresh salmon. What more can you want? That was delicious. I love the little wasabi pea twist. That you're right. That goes perfectly, complements perfectly. I've forgotten what you said was the white sauce.
So that was preserved lemon, caper, and a little bit of mayonnaise and natural yogurt.
So that was just so light and fresh, and the cold, smooth texture of it, contrasting the crunchy peas was delicious.
All right. So the next reviewer is going to be Nathan Griffith. He's a social media manager, and also he leads the food reviewers group in Taranaki.
Well, I love the innovation, a really good idea, and you're right, the wasabi goes well with the salmon. I was wondering though, it's in a little dish for those who can't see it. We do have the videos on the platforms, but I was actually thinking about how I would get it onto my salmon, and of course I could tip it on, but I thought maybe rolling it in the crumbs would be a good way to do it. That would be an interesting, maybe even sprinkling it on the plate beforehand if it was served to a dinner table.
Yes. Nathan was trying to make sushi.
So yeah, well done, thank you.
Yeah, it looks really bright, and the greeniness and the whiteness and the redness all there on the plate, and it makes you feel like celebrating. Awesome. So we have a lot of things happening in our industry, and how are you coping with it?
Well, I think industry itself is, as I said before, are really crying out for employers. They really support what WIT is doing, and I've worked with industry for us to incorporate work experience into all of our hospitality programs now, whereas it was always done as we encourage you to go out and get work experience because it will help you in gaining employment. And so we've in the process of preparing to have that as a compulsory aspect of all of our qualifications.
Oh, cool.
So that they are getting exposed to industry, they're getting exposed to employers, and employers are exposed to our students, so that those relationships are starting to be formed and then leading into employment opportunities.
Yeah. So a year ago, everyone predicted something about future of hospitality because COVID happened. People lost their belief in humanity. Everyone believed in zombie apocalypse, things like that. So, how much of these predictions became true?
I think anyone that wanders around the Taranaki streets on any night of the week is amazed at how many people are in our local restaurants. We're so spoilt for choice in Taranaki, and I know that in other regions, the smaller regions, people are flocking there as New Zealand tourists. New Zealanders are going and exploring what's happening out there, and the reviews and what you see about Taranaki, the food sector and the hospitality sector is pretty impressive.
And it's your impact on it as well, Angela. We know a treasure what you do for Taranaki Hospitality. Thank you very much. Few words from our sponsor, Area 41 on Brougham Street. Try their weekend's bottomless brunch and try their semi-set menu at either 10 to 12 or 12 to 2 p.m. slot. $60 per person, minimum 2 people. Inquire on their website and socials. Bookings are essential. Ask the sommelier about their wine list too. Thank you for listening to Taranaki Foodies with Area 41. Now we are going to take some selfies and post them on Instagram and Facebook. Tune in to 100.4 FM every Saturday at 4 p.m. Remember, there is a live recording of this interview online on Taranaki Foodies with Area 41 group page on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Meet you next Saturday at 4 p.m. on Airways. Bye-bye, my gourmetarians. Bye-bye, everyone.
See you later.
See you later.
And
Happy
carry on
day.
with a latent plug for the live gig out tomorrow at 4 o'clock, which features this artist, Quarter Boy. He's a local musician. He's coming on my show tomorrow. So tune in at 4. It is Quarter Boy with Never Meant To.
Well done. Awesome. Normally our show is 30 minutes, but you guys were so interesting. We did 55. I don't know how we're going to whether we're going to have trouble with the management, but I just couldn't stop. There are so many interesting content. It was so much fun. Thank you very much for